Oh, yeah. I'm old.
Good morning. Welcome to Rotary. If you'll stand, silence your cell phones, and our Rotarian of the day is Catherine.
Let's all take a moment of silence to express our gratitude for many, many blessings. Amen.
Amen.
List of gratitude is long, but it's time for the prayer. For the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States. To the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And the Rotary four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First. Second. Third. Fourth.
Will it be official officer?
And fifth.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, as you sit down, just remember the cart buckets that are on your table. And Mr. Eric, I'll let you come on up and do your thing.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. We have a few guests here today. We have Mary Denny, and she's a guest of Joyce Simpson. You want to?
Yeah, I work for the Central States local hospital located in Development Authority. I'm the executive director. I come from Alberta, Georgia, and North area. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And then we have Mr. Wes Harden.
Hey, my name is Wes Harden, and I'm the new chief of police at Georgia College State University. I'm a guest today. I was invited by Greg Williams, who's the chief of police at University of North Georgia, who used to work here. And I left an application for joining on my desk before I ran out. I'm going to be a guest today and a member tomorrow. But thank y'all for having me.
Nothing all I guess. And you usually introduce the speaker now or when they're speaking?
We'll wait. Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's go. Okay, and so we got our raffle ticket. What do we have? To get Mr. West to draw us a ticket.
All right, I'm ready to see the ticket. Turn them over. All right, winning number ticket is 274-5316. 5316.
Right.
Oh. All right, Liam, pressure's on.
Verify.
Verified there's at least one.
I thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. All right. Reverend Black, is there any prayer requests?
Yeah, let's remember Randy. I hear you been a while, so let's remember Randy.
Okay. Anybody else? No.
You're informed. One of our Texas employees' son had a heart transplant this morning.
Oh, wow.
One of our employees' son.
It was his son that had. You heard any updates how he's doing?
Heart's in and beating on his own, but that was 2 hours ago.
Okay. We'll remember them now. For anybody else? Know of anything? Okay. Erin had me a note about community announcements. She said, refer to the bulletin. But okay, yeah.
All right, today, since Randy was sick, notified Randy the sixth, so at the very last minute, I was able to get today's, meeting photo opportunity that we're having at the library postponed to next week.
Next
So
week, great.
it'll be next week, same time, same place. And we're gonna have it probably with or without.
Right.
Get that close to the deadline. So-
Okay. Very,
And I'm sorry, but you know, things happen.
they do, and an extra thank you, Bill, for doing that, because this honors their late daughter, and we certainly wanted them to be there, but if they can't make it next week, we'll have to do it anyway, but thank you for doing that, Bill, last minute. Is there any other club business? Laura?
I don't. We have a lot of events coming up to celebrate Earth Day in the next couple weeks. Number one is we adopted a stretch of Meriwether Road. And we're looking to have a really nice sign purchased by the county installed in the next week or so, hopefully before that, but April the 20th is a Saturday. I have sign up sheets on the table. It's our first, cleanup. So we need a few people like Billy and Black with sturdy legs to come out and pick up some trash with us that morning, just for a couple of hours. Anyway, we just need a handful. We got a lot going on. I'm gonna be working all over town. We have about 250 cadets. We're going to call it a GMC. The spring cleaning downtown too. We just have a lot going on. There's a list of items on your table. If you take a picture of that scan thing, I think you're able to get to this page where there's a link to thing, like event on Facebook. Do you know what that means, William?
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, number one, let's help Fred and me out with this adoption road.
What time and where do you want us on the plan?
Okay, at 9 a.m. at Victory Baptist Church on Meriwether, they're gonna let us park there. And then we'll just make our way down to the convenience center and back up as long as we can. Not as long as we can. Let's say max 2 hours.
But at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I have all the supplies will be there. I would just say, and we'll talk about it again next week, if you wanna bring your own sturdy gloves, that's what I would do, because I just have latex.
Okay, that was what I was gonna ask you
yeah.
about.
So we
Okay.
have all the, there should be grabbers and stuff. Any questions?
Yes, T-Bone, I heard they were giving away a free show of everybody.
They are. You head on that way. Make it fire.
We might better be in prayer for William Black. Yes,
One thing I want to mention, those of you who weren't here last week, we got more of the two monuments in. You haven't got one yet. There's a whole bunch of them over here at the second table, so just help them out to the wonderful, if you haven't seen them, come on over. They're really very, very wonderful.
they are. Very good. Okay, got our bulletins now, so you can see the community events. I won't go through them and read them all for you, but looks like a lot of fun things coming up. So make sure you check out your bulletin. And if no one else has anything, Mark, I'm gonna let you come up and introduce our special guest today.
Thank you. My privilege to introduce actually a friend, and they should have introduced him a few minutes ago. Brian Adams is here. And the reason I'm doing his introduction now instead of when we did guests is because if it weren't for Brian, I wouldn't know Hartwell. So in my mind, at least, they kind of come together. Brian is a lawyer in Macon, a really fine lawyer in Macon, I would say. But he's also been before this club before because he's one of the motivators and guys who really headed up the Okmulgee National Park initiative in Macon that I know he's spoken to us about it before, and he may still speak to us about it in the future. So Brian Adams is my guest today. Y'all give him a round of applause. Our speaker today is Hartwell Carson, and Hartwell is also a Macon native. And in fact, we kind of threatened him a little bit. We told him that Brian was going to introduce him. And he said, no, please, no, let's not let that happen. Brian is a graduate of the University of Georgia. He's got a master's degree from University of Montana, right? It's up there above my head, but I can't see it up there. He, in his studies, in his research and kind of thing, he was did research on the upper Missouri River, where and it's important for people to understand what a river keeper is. Does anybody besides Harville and Brian know what a working definition of a river keeper is? We have them here in Georgia, and in a prior life, I actually lobbied on behalf of the Upper Chattahoochee River Keeper. And the river keeper's whole goal in life can be simply stated, and that is they want to make the rivers and streams of the state fishable. And by that, not only can you catch the fish, you can eat fish, and swimmable. That if you can swim in them and you can fish and eat the fish, that makes it a healthy environment. And that's really the goal, the simplistic goal of a river keeper. So now a test of you all. How many know where the French Broad River is? Brevard, Asheville area. That's right, exactly right. And that's what our speaker's job is today. He is the river keeper for the French Broad River. And he's going to speak to us, however, about a nonprofit that he's founded for Africa. And candidly, something that we will probably put before the board at some point to participate in as a Rotary Club. Hartwell's, the nonprofit's name is Clean Water for Africa, and he did it as part of a continuation of his day job. His day job is the river keeper of the French Broad River, but he also worked with river keepers throughout Africa to put together this initiative. And so with that introduction, I present to you Hartwell Carson.
I've known Brian since we went to daycare. Not young though. That was just last week. Brian does have a lot of dirt on me, and I appreciate Mark. Brian held a fundraiser at his lake house, which is where I met Mark, and we had one of the Ugandan river keepers came to kind of talk about the work. So Mark set that up nicely. So I work as the French Broad River Keeper for an organization called Mountain True, and our job is really important. I mean, we're trying to protect and clean up our waterways, and there's really nothing more important than clean water for fishing, for swimming, but also for drinking. But as part of that work, we work, the Waterkeeper Alliance is an umbrella group for all the river keepers. And so the river keepers across the globe, here in Georgia, a bunch in North Carolina where I live, but a bunch across the globe. And I met some of the folks at our annual conference, and I realized, like, as much as I thought my job was important and hard, their job, and the folks that I met from Africa, is extraordinarily difficult, much more difficult than what we're working on. I mean, all of us, I would say it's safe to say, take for granted that we have clean water coming out of our tap and healthy supply, and it's almost always clean and available for us. You know, these guys are starting from the very basic rung, having no funding, no money. Almost all of these guys are doing this job on the side, and they're just trying to provide at a basic level clean water to the people in their watershed. So a lot of the stuff we take for granted, I realized that we had it really good. So I met these guys and I was like, partially I just wanted to go experience Africa and like see what it looks like. And so I told one of the guys I wanted to come visit him, but I didn't want to just go. I wanted to help him with something. So he said, everybody in his watershed needs clean drinking water. And so we raised enough money to install a well in Togo, which is in West Africa. So that was my first foray, and I went there and they built the well while I was there, and I thought, you know, isn't this great, this thing we've done, and cool, I can move on. But, you know, going there and seeing the scope of the need and the problem and the appreciation from the people, I was like, all right, I'm definitely hooked. And they were really smart too, because they took me, you know, we built the well, and I was, oh, that's great. And then they took me to the next village, and they were like, these people also need it. So I was hooked. I mean, I think it's the most valuable thing I've ever done and the most valuable use of my time and energy. You know, this is a super common site. Like almost everybody outside of cities, and I mean by outside of cities, I mean like the super core of the city. It's like paved road through a lot of these villages or towns. And then just off of that, folks, there's no electricity, no running water. And folks are just fetching water from wherever they can fetch water, which is usually something that looks a lot like this. It's a contaminated stream or, puddle or small pond. And you can imagine the cleanliness of that water. But what people often don't imagine is the problems that it causes. So like drinking dirty water, these folks are, this kid on the right's a good example. It's very common to see kids with distended bellies like that. They're just full of amoebas and germs. So there's a lot of disease. There's a lot of early death. There's a lot of infection, but there's also a lot of time spent by households fetching water, boiling water to have clean water. I mean, a vast majority of what could be productive time of working and making money and, improving their businesses and their home is spent going to get water, going to get wood to make a fire to boil water. So it really trickles down, big time and reduces, their ability to sort of provide for their families. These are just some of the sites that are just common everywhere you go. These are called jerry cans. So they're everywhere. They're everywhere we went, and folks fill their water. They towed it back to their village. Some folks are walking a couple hundred yards. Some folks are walking a couple miles to fetch dirty water. I took my daughter because I wanted her to kind of see like what this is all about, because I didn't know that people didn't have clean water when I was a kid. So I was like, I want you to see. So we went to a village and she got to kind of experience what that was all about. This is another picture. This is one of our Ugandan riverkeeper friends with the kid. And it's a little hard to see in that picture, but that's a good example of like that kid just has a lot of disease from drinking dirty water. This is on the banks of Lake Choga. So, we went there and we built a well, and a well is the gold standard solution for most of those villages. Actually, providing a source of water, it's providing a source of clean water, and it's in high demand. But there's also some other solutions that we wanted to implement because they're more readily available, they're cheaper, there's stuff we could do. So Brian went with me to on a trip to Uganda, and it was sort of our first time piloting these water filters. So if you guys have ever camped, it's the same technology. When you go get water from a stream, you run it through a filter and it cleans out the bacteria that are in the water. So it's the same. This is our friend Daniel, and he's kind of showing a group of school kids. So we took about, I think we did maybe 50 water filters, and we took them to schools, and we would do a lesson about the water filter, and then we would set up the filter through this bucket here and run the water through. We do this demonstration that you usually crush it with the kids. You take a bottle of really dirty water, with dirt in there, we'd shake it up, and it's clearly brown, and then we would squeeze it through the filter, and then we'd have me or Brian drink it, because like if the white dude drank the water, that was like, you can trust it. And so I remember we were on the way to one of these schools, and we stopped by this sort of canal, and we filled up water to use as a demonstration. And I was like, man, this better work, because this one is dirty. And so we got there, and I told him at work, we ran it through the filter, and I was like, all right, it's my turn to show the work. So we drank the water, and that was 2 years later, I'm still here. So it is a solid technology, and the good news is that it's fairly affordable. It's a lot cheaper to implement, but it's kind of a Band-Aid, honestly, because you're now providing clean water, but they're still having to go fetch the water. They're still spending all that time to go get water. Some of the sources dry up in the dry season. So it was great. I felt really good about it, but everywhere we went, they said, thank you, this is wonderful, but we still need less. So that was the message that I took home, is that this is a good technology. Mostly we targeted schools, like community centers, hospitals, getting the most bang for our buck. And I was shocked at the number. We would go to a school, and I'd be like, how many kids go to school here? It'd be like 700 kids would go to school at some of these places. So it was a really impactful project. This is in Western Uganda with one of the river keepers there. And then we'd pass the water around, and there was a lot of interest, a lot of excitement. This is at a kind of a community, little hospital, medical clinic, which is very interesting. They didn't have a source for clean water either. They're treating people for health and disease, but they didn't have they weren't using clean water, or they were just using it the best they could as they could get it. So And then we did some other projects, which is sort of like, fetching water from a dirty stream, and then providing water filters is sort of the next level, and then providing water tanks is a level above that. So what we did is we would put a big plastic tank on the side of a school. It would catch rainwater, and then it would run through, filter out, and the kids would have a source of water. That's great because they're now no longer having to go fetch water. It's clean. The only problem is that those tanks usually won't last. So, I mean, they won't last throughout the year because of the volume of water. So in the dry season, it'll dry up, and then they're back to having to go fetch dirty water. So again, these were great projects, but it's still the feedback we got. This is great, but we still need a well. And these are some of the water tank pictures. So the photo on the left is actually one of the wells that we implemented, and they're really simple, and it's just great because they don't break. It's basically a metal wellhead with a metal pump that's operated manually. So they're not to say they don't ever break, but they're pretty solid. And I think the thing that our organization has going for it, with a couple things over some other folks, a lot of folks are doing clean water projects in Africa. But a lot of folks don't have good partners on that. I think where a lot of these projects fall through, and where you hear stories of, we did this thing and we came back and it was broken, is because it's somebody like me doing the project, and I'm not on the ground. But really my role in this organization is just to raise money for these guys to do the work that they do. These guys are amazing. They're in their community. They know the problems. They know the people. They know how to fix things when they go wrong. And so, these river keepers are on the ground, and then with the well breaks or the water filters clog, they have the resources and the tools to fix that. So our projects have been pretty successful because they're maintained, because we have folks on the ground doing that work. This is a good example of a water tank on the side of a school. And this is the kids working the well. The other thing I'll say, so there was extreme excitement about the well truck. This is a project near Lake Chogo in Uganda, and we showed up and the well truck was there, which you can imagine, like in rural Uganda, it's pretty exciting to see a truck drilling a hole in the ground. So we showed up, and there was maybe a handful of folks watching, and then within 15 minutes, there was probably 1,000 kids. Like the whole village let out to see what was going on. And we were like, man, they're really into this well truck. And then we left to go check on something else. We came back, they were all gone. It wasn't the well truck. They were like really into seeing us. They'd never seen white people before. This is really cool. They were like, oh my God. They had a saying in Togo that said "Yovo Yovo Bonsoir," which is white person, hello. I felt like very cool. It's the coolest I've ever felt, is because everyone's like, oh wow, this is really neat to see a white person. And I have a baby goat that I was given as part of this well project. The chief of the village came up, and he thanked us for the project, and he said, we want to give you this goat as our appreciation for putting it in the well. And I thought, well, this is great. This is a symbolic goat, and I'm very appreciative. And we got in the van, maybe 30 minutes later, we're driving down the bumpy road, and I hear this like, in the back of that van. I'm like, wait, is the goat in the back? And they're like, yeah, it's your goat. So one of the river keepers is taking care of our goat. He tells me the goat is doing fine. I have a hunch maybe the goat has been dinner at some point, but this is a bunch of the kids that showed up when we were doing our project. This is one of our best river keepers, Godfrey, on the right. He works on the Nile River and Lake Choga, and we did some water sampling so they would know, if the sources of water folks are collecting from are contaminated with E. coli. So this was the training we did with the folks there, and my favorite part is just the appreciation and the excitement when you go to bring these projects. And I'm gonna try something that probably won't work, which is a video. It's a risky endeavor when you're doing a presentation, but maybe it's working. So at the end, I'll describe it, and then if it works, you'll be impressed. So they get all the kids together. Brian probably remembers it, and they would chant clean water, clean water. It was great. And there was one school we went to, and we were in a hurry. We were trying to get to a bunch of schools in one day, and our riverkeeper friend said, "Oh, we gotta go." They have a song that they wrote for it. Me and Brian were like, hear a song, like they wrote a whole song for us. So they wrote and they performed this song for us, which I think went something like I can't remember the words. It was like "You're blessed, thank you," and they performed it. And Brian almost had a girlfriend that when he got done with it.
Yeah.
My dancing skills.
We don't have permission from your drive.
Yeah. Well, I'll show it when we get it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so the work is extremely important. You know, I work for a nonprofit, and I'm going to ask you not to tell my boss this, but I'm sure you guys have all donated for nonprofits. You're all familiar with nonprofits, but you know, there are different layers of nonprofits. There's, you know, if you were to give my organization, not sure, $100, we would be grateful. But honestly, like, it's not going to make that big of a difference. Like $100 in Asheville, North Carolina, just is not impactful. If you were to give us, you know, $10,000, that would be, you know, we would still be grateful. But like, it's not going to move the needle great. The reason I think the work here is so important and impactful is that, first of all, every single dollar that we get goes to the project. So there's zero overhead, which I don't know, it may be like the dumbest idea ever, but nobody makes any money. All the money goes to the on the ground project. So if a well costs $10,000, $10,000 goes to the well. So it's 100%, you know, going to the projects that are provided to the communities, which I think is great. And there's no overhead, and there's no other work that I've seen that is more impactful. You know, we're trying to clean up the French Broad River so folks can swim and kayak. These folks are trying to clean up the river so folks don't die of disease. I mean, it's just night and day the importance of the work and the impact of the work. And so, yeah, that's why I'm hooked and keep doing it. So, you guys have any questions?
Brian, Hartwell, maybe unfair to put you on the spot like this, but have you worked with any Rotary clubs within Africa on any of these projects?
We reached out to one in Togo because we had a couple partnerships in Africa. In Asheville, and they asked us the same question. So there were some in Uganda and Togo, but we didn't get that far in sort of forging that partnership. But I would love to, because I know that that's a thing.
Has anybody tried that through the Rotary side?
I don't think so. Maybe that's where it fell apart. I think I was asking the river keepers, you know, if they knew of Rotaries there. I know that they were there, but I think maybe they didn't have the connections with those crews. But I know that they're there and have made those partnerships before.
The wells, are they deep wells that look like?
Yeah, they are. They're you know, maybe not as deep, you know, maybe like 150, 200 feet. A lot of the places they're drilling, they have, you know, their surface water around. It's just contaminated. So the well is a way to get clean water. So you don't have to drill super deep.
Do you run the rock?
Usually not. Not most of them are. It's pretty, you know, well, the ones we've drilled in have been dirt and sand. So it's been maybe a little cheaper to even, like, well, I just drilled a well in North Carolina. And it was like 300 feet, 200 out was through rock. So yeah.
How many do you usually get to do within the year?
It just depends on funding. So we've I think we've implemented 7 wells, like 11 water tanks, and maybe a couple hundred water filters over the years. So, you know, the good thing about our organization is when we get money, it goes right back out the door. That these guys always have a need for projects. They're always saying we want more filters or we need a well, and so we could spend as much money as we had. It's just a matter of fundraising. Our most successful fundraising year, we did a concert with George Clinton at the P-Funk, and we raised a whole bunch of money. And that's actually how we grew our partnership from Togo into Uganda, and we've worked with the Kenyan Waterkeeper too that year. So.
What annual costs are associated with a well?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it could be nothing, but it could be, you know, if the well breaks, there could be costs associated with fixing it. So the models that we've set up that have worked pretty well, which is there's a well committee, and that well committee is in charge of well maintenance, and that there's a a certain amount of money that they raise to bring to the table. I mean, fairly nominal, maybe like $100. They raise that as a village, and then we raise the main amount of money to implement the well project. But then if something goes wrong, they have money to, make small repairs. If larger things happen, like we had one well that's a little fancier and had a pump on it, and the pump broke, and so we financed a new pump for that. So it kind of depends. Ideally, the well works for quite a few years with no maintenance, which is usually the case. They're pretty simple, hand pump wells in the most part.
So what does one cost?
Yeah, so they're generally about $10,000 per well.
And is that due to the labor, the material, what you have to
It's-
hire contractors over there? How is all that?
It's mostly the well, the well, you're paying the well drill, which is very similar to how you drill a well here. They're bringing that big old truck. I have a piece of property, I just put a well in there, and the guy, we have like a long gravel road. The guy showed us, well, if I get down this gravel road, I was like, man, I've seen these well trucks in Africa go through like 3,000 to get to spill in there. I was like, you can do it. So it's largely just the cost of drilling a well. I mean, the casing and all that is some expense.
I might have missed this. Did you say the average life of one of these wells, or do you maintain it, or how do they?
I mean, they should last, decades. There's certainly instances where they break, but they're usually, the hand pump ones are not hard to fix. And that's the one you see throughout most of the places we work, just because they're cheap. They're simple and they're easy to repair. We have done some in Togo. The village really wanted one because they had a lot of elderly folks that they pump to it and then they fill water off the tank. I think that project's great, but it's had more problems. The pump broke. It's just, and it was more expensive to get a pump and the stand in the tank. And so I've tried though in my role, not to tell them what the right birds. They tell me we need this and this well, and we just try to help with it.
What do they use to determine exactly where the aquifer to wheel?
Yeah, in Uganda, they've been a little more sophisticated. They've actually, I think the government commissioned a study about the best places to drill, and I think it's partially supply, but partially like where there weren't other sources of water. In Togo, they're a little less sophisticated. I don't think it's just like they don't know, and they're just doing the best they can to put wells in areas where there aren't sources of water. The places where we're kind of, if you picture Africa's like pretty tall, we're mostly working in that middle zone, which is better because there's actually more water. I mean, it's not as arid as some of the places on the other extremes of Africa. So more like along the equator, you actually have rainy seasons.
I'm interested in the well drilling. They are making money on it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Well,
I hope so. I mean, they're trying to make a living just like everybody else. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they're making a lot of money, but I hope they're, I think a well drilling truck is.
they're busy all the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're busy there. They're busy where I live too. I'm sure they're busy here too. I mean, like I said, I just got a well drill. I waited like 9 months on that guy to show up. So, but he showed up with a truck that cost like $5 million. They're in demand.
So like, if you had to want to drill a well, like, someone said, here's $10,000 from that point, how long will it take to get the well done?
Really not long. I mean, these guys have projects that they're ready to implement. I mean, they know the location, couple months probably. Yeah. I mean, they probably are waiting, but I got a sense there that, I don't know, they seem to, they're not waiting as long as I was waiting on the well driller. They seem to have a good relationship with folks that do good work. So yeah, it's pretty quick. And in Uganda, like I said, they're a little more sophisticated. They have areas that they've identified, and they also have a little bit of, paperwork on making sure that they test the well to make sure it's, clean and, which is good. I mean, you don't want to drill a well and do dirty. So I think there's the drilling the well. I think that actually running the test to make sure it's clean takes a minute because that's, red tape.
He drilled a well in one day.
Nah, the last one we did took about a week. You know, the drill, I mean, well, that one of them took about a week, but they had to build the stand to put the tank on. So
But if you're actually drilling a well,
it may be a couple days. Yeah, I think it depends on how deep they have to go and what they run into. But yeah, it's like I said, it's extremely impactful. It's the best bang for your buck from a financial perspective, but also from an impact perspective. So I'd love to, you know, if you guys are interested in support, I'd love to give you more info or provide whatever you need.
what is, I mean, as far as the demand for wells, is there a number that y'all, I mean, is it just?
It's infinite.
Where, well, that's what I'm saying. And there's no, I mean, with water being a basic necessity, there's no help from the government on this?
There is a little bit, like the government of Uganda is a little better than the government of Togo. They're doing some projects, but it's really like, it's kind of like the projects go along the, you know, the population corridors or and then once you get a little out of that, there's not a lot of government. You know, so if you go 20 miles off the paved road, there's not a lot happening. But there is some, you know, there is some things happening. There's other nonprofits doing that work too. So there's not nothing, but the need is unlimited. I mean, we could drill 1,000 wells next year, and it would still be 1,000 more to drill year after that. So.
Wouldn't you say the corruption in the government there is, I mean, it's not like the water authorities we have here. I mean, being over there and realizing that how politics are corrupted here too, but nothing like there's some third world and the places that are getting the water are the ones that know the government leaders, and it's not like it is here.
I think, poverty is so rampant that it's, you know, everyone's taking for themselves first. If you're in the government, you know, you're lying in your pocket, and if there's anything left over, it'll go to where it's supposed to go. I think that's definitely true. I was talking to a foundation the other day. You know, they said that we gave the government of Uganda some money to do these projects. It's a terrible idea. Like at least 80% of that's getting wasted. So yeah, there's a lot of need.
Any other questions? Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That was such an amazing presentation. So thank you so much. And in lieu of a speaker's gift, we ask our speakers to sign a book that will be donated to our local library in conjunction with Jill's books, which is one of our literacy.
Yeah, great.
So I'm gonna get you to sign.
I told you my mom was a librarian.
Oh, really? And you keep them here, and this will be donated. So if anybody has any other questions for Hartwell, just please stay after, and I know he'll be glad to answer your questions. I do want to mention something that I forgot earlier. Aaron had emailed me and said that Chard Ray Food Pantry were really running low, desperately low on food. So to see if maybe we could bring some canned goods next week. So we'll send out a reminder about that. So if you could bring something for Chard Ray, that would be great, because I believe they're going to come speak to us pretty soon. Remember Jill's books next week. We'll be putting another email out about that. Thank you for being flexible about that, because we sure want Randy and Susan to be there if they can. Are there any other announcements? Well, meeting adjourned.
I'm Jola.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you, Jola.
Probably feel like late. It was so awesome. So
Cool, thank you.
that's on my bucket list to go down.
It was awesome.
It sounds so amazing.
I mean,
I have a cousin that he lives in there. He moved there years ago.
yeah,
He does not want to come back.
yeah.
He is, his fifties. He got married, been up there, he had a child.
I hear you. I mean,
He loves it.
it's fascinating, and I really like our trips too because we're there with like locals, and we're like, you know, traveling, seeing like going to places that like tourists don't normally go to. Like anybody goes to Togo,
I never even heard of
right?
it.
Right. But I mean, people go to Uganda because they have animals and stuff.
Okay.
It's cool. I mean, I highly recommend it. I took my daughter because
That's
I was
amazing.
just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever
Great
seen. You know?
experience.
Like we took her to the market. I was like, it's gonna blow her mind, you know.
Wow.
Being in a big like city, you know, African market.
That's amazing.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's the spirit. You know what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to go, let me know. I'll give you whatever advice I got.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You're doing such amazing work. Like, how long have you been with this foundation?
Maybe like 8
You're in
I'm based in Nashville as the Prince brother. And then so I kind of just do this on the side, helping these guys. But I'd like to do it more as time would allow, because I think it's more impactful. I enjoy it more than my regular job. So
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good. I can see my grandbaby. I think next week. You live in Hendersonville or Asheville?
Asheville, yeah.
Yeah.
See if I can.
I'm London State. I'm athletic director. Enjoy the program, man.
Yeah, nice to
First
meet you.
time.
Yeah.
My grandparents have a place, Weaver,
Oh, cool.
but it's actually, if you've been up there, a little community called Ox Creek. Familiar with that at all?
I think so, yeah.
They've had this thing in generations.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I love Waverly. That's not far from us.
There's a little golf course right back there called
Green Street.
Green Street.
Yeah.
We're not too far from there, but my cousin, I think, used to run that thing. But anyway.
I like that course. It's like classic mountain.
Yeah. That, the land, they had a couple hundred acres. And I mean, there was nothing out there when I was a kid. Now, all that stuff is moving out there.
Yeah.
They sell that land. There's multi-million-dollar homes around it.
We were talking well drillers. I mean, that's what it is. It's like people are popping up on these mountaintops, just like filling in and, you know, yeah.
Are you from Asheville?
No, I've lived there like 20 years, but I'm from Macon.
Oh, okay.
I grew up there, went out west, and then came back to the mountains. Yeah, I was a summer camp kid up there. So
Good job with the
yeah,
program.
yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I got one of those videos to work.
Oh, did you?
Give it back. Give it to
I should know better to say, you know, that's how you make sure we use.
I mean, they never work.
I know. Well, I think what it was is like, it's referencing something like we're looking at, and it says, well, I'm not allowed to play that until the person who gave it to you says yes.
It's
Like,
always something. I always put them in there, and I'm like, well, I'm sure
I
they
know.
won't work, but
because like one time Tamara was like, well, can I do the introduction over Zoom? Because we always have Zoom meetings going as well. With the video, and it's like, I've never been able to get the audio to work. Like,
see, I think I've.
did you get to play?
I said it. I told it to you. Yeah. I don't know. The sound still doesn't work, but
So that's the other thing. There's a way to make sure that it works. We so rarely use it, so like I can never remember how to do it.
yeah. I can't get the sound to work, but.
Can you get it and send it to our members? I don't know if it would be too big a file.
Yeah, you're welcome to. I mean, that you could send that Google presentation link.
Yeah.
Out to everybody.
Yeah, I can do
And
that.
I should have called this out, but we have a website, so if you want to go, you know.
I think there was a, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's that link to donate, but that same cleanwaterforafrica.org is the website.
Okay.
So that's a Venmo link. Okay, all right.
Can we get a picture of them more?
Okay, cool.
So we take a break. Let's go.
You know, a lot of folks are trying to do something. Good job. Yeah, it's very easy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and for the money, like. Yeah. Yeah, they're raising, he said that they're raising like, I really think it's practice. On the print back, like walking away. I think they raised all the time. And I'm like, this is gonna be awesome, but I'm always like, we can be well, we can do it. And this is so people can like surf around and watch, which I will do, and it will be very fun. Watch up there. Yeah, sorry. I'm like, here. And I'm like, I go to T-Bones all the time. Ah.
I'm sorry.
Like we know each other, like each other.
All right, well, that's.